Hello, everybody. It's Paula Nutting, your musculoskeletal specialist, and I'm super excited to be presenting our August Ask Me Anything vodcast, live streaming, and really hoping that we can get such empowerment from therapists today. Anyone who's listening to this recording, I urge you to type down questions, because I've got an amazing practitioner who has been involved in writing all things about business mastery and ethics, all the things that we need more skills of when we're going through our remedial massage or our myotherapy or our massage courses. And yet we just don't get the way to pack that up and how to actually start a successful business. So really excited to be able to get Cherie Sohnen-Moe, who will be talking all things businesses for us. And speaking about businesses, I'd just like to do a shout out to Q Academy, who are one of the sponsors that we have for these shows. Q Academy is one of the major colleges that we have in Queensland, and they've also branching down through with some of their courses in myotherapy, remedial massage and massage therapy to some of the southern states as well. So they are offering all things about excessive what do we call it? Accelerated learning techniques. They're fun practices. When you come in and do one of their courses, you actually really have a great time doing the courses. And I can tell you that because I've taught there and I've been involved in that space for quite a while. Anyway, we'll do another shout out later on, but thank you, Q Academy, for supporting this. And I'd like to introduce Cherie Sohnen-Moe. Cherie, how are you? Come on in, please.
Hi. Thank you, Paula. I'm so glad to be here. I've been to Australia, but it was, 25 years ago. And I mean, I fell in love with Perth, and I, almost tried to convince my husband to move there. So
yeah. Perth is a magical place. In fact, I'm supposed to be there in a couple of weeks' time. Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Like we're kind of traveling everywhere now. We don't have border closures anymore with crossing pathways with the old pandemic out there. But we still have issues with therapists trying to get to courses because of that wariness about health and safety, really. And you guys would be the same over there too, I can imagine.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Tell me, how long have you been involved in assisting therapists on their journey to their dream businesses?
Well, I mean, I started off many years ago as a massage therapist. But before I did that, I was doing business coaching, although in those days we didn't call it coaching, it was just consulting. But I was doing that, and I was doing workshops, and I had this gift, because I don't think it's anything that I really did to earn, but I've had this gift of being able to communicate in a way that could help people kind of cross over their fears.
Okay.
And particularly in fears in terms of, it started off with setting goals, and then, setting up their business, and doing this in such a way that they felt more comfortable about it. So I started doing that, but when we decided to move to Tucson, I decided to focus on my consulting practice. And of course, within 2 days, I had 3 massage clients, because, I love massage and I love the benefits of massage. But I was teaching, a couple of years after that, I was teaching in a school, and I was teaching business, and it was very frustrating because at the time there were no business books available for this profession. And well, frankly, in the United States, there were no books written for massage at all at that time.
Right. Wow.
And so, there's always been great business books, but at the time it was the guerrilla marketing books. I don't know if you're familiar with those, but they were very popular here at the time, but they talked about battles and strategies and tactics. And that is not the language that a massage practitioner relates to at all. So on the one hand, we had guerrilla marketing, and on the other hand, there was creative visualization with Shakti Gawain. I was like, how do I blend this stuff? And I had been keeping all this notes from one client that I had worked with in California, who kept saying that, oh, you should put all this into a book. And I was like, I'm not a writer, right? And then literally I opened my closet door in my office, and the book that had been in a notebook on the top shelf fell on my head.
Wow. Is that the universe or what?
It was. It'll smack me, see, And so that's what started me on creating the first business mastery.
Isn't that a great story?
And the first edition came out in 1988.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, so how many editions now? Because does it change much? Does how we first set up our businesses in 1988, does it change to 2000?
Absolutely. Because there's so much more. And of course, with social media, I mean, there wasn't social media back then. I mean, and then in like the first couple editions, I had to talk about computer memory and things like that is second nature to people now. So other than that, I think future editions of the book, they're not really going to change all that much unless something drastically changes, because the principles behind business haven't changed. About marketing hasn't changed, customer service hasn't changed. There are different ways that it gets done, and things that are more popular. And sometimes there's different rulings that come across about what legal structures can mean in one country or another country, or one state to the next state. But in general, the principles don't change. But the thing that I had to do when I started, it was all about setting up your own practice. And I don't know how it is in Australia right now, but in the last 10 years, there's been a lot more job opportunities for practitioners. Okay. So I needed to broaden the book to also include, well, how do you get a job? How do you find a good place to work? What are your rights? What do you need to know? So it includes both, which is why it's like 500 and some odd pages.
Yeah. The thing with the rights, that's a huge focus, because originally it was about 85% of therapists, when they complete their diploma or their certificate or whatever, work for themselves. You can see I'm at home. This is my clinic back here. This is like, I've been working for myself in my own clinical space for decades. Yeah. But now I think that you're right. There's multimodality clinics. There are people working for big companies, and I see people falling into the bad footprints of going, I'm getting ripped off by the employer. I don't have a knowledge of what's protecting me as a practitioner. So you've got sections within the book that will help people with that. But do you also have areas that help therapists who are actually setting up a big clinic?
Oh, that's my passion. So of course that's where most of the book is really about, is how do you set up your own practice? Because even though a lot of those practitioners are starting off with jobs, the majority of them, at least here in the United States, still have a part-time practice of their own.
Yep.
So they still need to know how to do it, and need to know what's going on, but also they need to know what's involved. So maybe they're not as resentful of the company that's only giving them a small fraction of what they're charging, when they realize how much goes into a practice. I mean, when you have a simple practice, when I was in practice, I'm long retired, but it was, a little office with my table and my supplies. And, I did not have a spa with all this exotic equipment. And, so there wasn't that kind of overhead.
Yeah. Before I had my little tiny space, I actually owned a gym health retreat where I had 22 staff. We had 3 massage rooms that were working pretty much 7 days, and we had aerobics running early morning, lunchtime, evenings. It was a full-on everything. And I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy, having the work cover and super to pay for, and rents and overheads, and it's massive.
But some people thrive in it.
Yep.
but I find that most therapists tend to kind of go a little smaller. Maybe they'll have a couple of other practitioners of either massage or some other kind of allied wellness care
Mm.
in their practice, or maybe have a maximum of 5 other practitioners. So it's not as crazy, but
Yeah.
so I want to support them in that dream, but more the focus is just general business. What do you really need to know? What do you need to know about finances? But more from also coming from a point of view of having them look at their own issues about money,
Yeah.
and what does that mean? And when you're thinking about setting a fee, what do you need to look at that to impact that? And if you work backwards, that's why I have a chart in the book that has, if you want to earn X amount of money, this is how much you have to charge per hour.
Mm.
And then it becomes, oh, wow, my community won't sustain that. So what else can I do to
Yeah.
bring in income? And that's why I have a whole chapter on retailing, so passive income and some other things to do. Uh, so I really believe in looking at what's important to you
Mhm.
and finding out where your strengths are, where your weaknesses are, what are your challenges, and then getting support in those challenges to help you move past them.
Yeah.
And then, and if there's some things that you're just not good at, then you have to figure out how you can hire someone to do those things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like bookkeeping. Like a lot of
Right.
massage therapists are we're drawn to touch. Like we're
Right.
not necessarily drawn to spreadsheets and like Excel and the cloud taking up hours and hours and hours of your time
Right.
afterwards when you can throw that to a bookkeeper. But then you've got to factor how much am I paying the bookkeeper?
Exactly.
How much am I paying myself? Because a lot of
Yes.
therapists don't put a price on giving themselves a weekly wage.
Right. Yeah. And those are the kinds of things that I really encourage people to explore, and particularly, uh, even if you're hiring out, you need to have some knowledge on how it works.
Mm, mm,
Because the bottom line, and that's the biggest thing in massage and in other businesses that I have dealt with, is that so often they set things off to somebody else to handle,
yep,
and that's when problems really occur. Because if you don't understand the concepts, if you don't understand what's needed, you don't
mm,
have to do it, but you have to understand what's necessary and what's needed, so that you can just kind of look it over and go, oh, okay, this is on the right track, or,
mm,
this doesn't seem to be quite right. Let's discuss this and make
yeah,
sure that we're not missing something here.
mm,
Uh,
yeah. But what do you think it? I mean, as new therapists, and we have these conversations all the time. Oh, I can't charge as much as someone who's been in the industry for a long time, and I
right.
totally get that because they're kind of getting that experience and starting off
Hmm.
small. How do you get? How do you scale? How do you explain to therapists when is it time for me to scale my pricing up? I mean, there's a big fear around my value. Oh, I'm not that good. I just want to do nice things for people. Butterflies and rainbows and everything will be all right. And yeah, I'm happy to do it for free because that's kind of like the way I want to
Right.
be.
Yeah.
How do we break them out of that self-worth, because that's what it's about,
Yes.
and how do we say, do you go after the first year, you reevaluate second year, or is it metered on post graduation ongoing education? Like, what markers do you use?
Well, the benchmarks are different. I mean, there's not one benchmark that fits all, but
Mm,
in general, and I do think it's wise when you're starting out that maybe you're not charging as much, because it will encourage people to come in and test you out.
mm,
Yeah, but you also don't want to bring down the price in your community either.
mm,
Uh, So I would kind of look and see, what new therapists tend to charge when they're coming out of practice. How much less is that? And usually I recommend within a year
Yeah.
bringing your clients up to kind of the medium range of what's being charged.
Yeah. Yeah. Are you hearing that, everybody? All those people who are terrified to put their prices up, or new people that are out there, just if you are in your own region, why don't you have a look at Google and have a look at the massage therapists in the industry or in your areas,
Right.
and find out what the bench prices are, and then scale from there. Because
Right.
they don't even look sometimes. They kind of just go, oh, I've just come out. Maybe I'll charge $50.
Right. And if you're in a community where it's a depressed community and the average income is $25,000-$30,000 a year, you're not going to get even $50 an hour for massage.
Mm.
Yeah, so you have to kind of look at also what kind of a community you're in. If you're living like in New York City,
Yeah.
your prices have to be so much higher than if you're living in a small southern town, because your rents are higher, everything is so much higher, and you have to take that into account. Uh,
Yeah.
but that's why I talked about earlier, really looking at what your challenges are. What are your challenges in terms of your self-belief and your self-worth? And the bottom line is you are never going to be able to charge what you're worth,
Oh,
because
wow.
what you're worth is priceless.
Yeah.
So what you can charge is what the market will bear.
Mm.
And when you kind of look at it like that way, it frees you up. It's not about me. It's what will the market bear?
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting though, because I know I've jumped my prices up a couple of times, and been like we all do, terrified that we're going to lose everybody, and
Right,
it never happens.
right,
Like you might drop 5% of people
right.
off, and I went up by $30. I went up by a
Wow.
quarter. I
Yeah.
went from 90 to 120,
Yep.
bang,
Yeah.
and thought, oh, but no, there was people said you're worth it.
Yep.
Because it's the worth of the result.
Right. Yeah. And that's why you've got to, but and those people who can't afford it, maybe you do a sliding scale.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
Like I used to say, look, how about we do 45 minutes, and then like you might want me for 30 minutes to do really remedial, and
right,
then somebody else who you'll see monthly who charges $75 or whatever they charge
right.
for relaxation. But if
Yep.
you want therapeutic one, then horses for courses.
Right. And that's why it's important to, when you talked about looking at what other people are charging, you also have to find out what kind of work that they are doing. Are they
Mm.
doing specialized? Are they doing injury rehab? Are they doing things that merit a higher price because more education has gone into that, more equipment has probably gone into that. So those, you have to make sure you're looking at, not apples and oranges.
Yeah, yeah, that's so true.
Yeah.
So if I'm a brand new therapist, Cherie, and I'm going to start a practice,
Yeah.
what have you got some tips?
Well, first of all, take a couple of deep breaths, and really look at what it is that you want to do. How do you want to spend your days? What's your ideal day look like? What are the kinds of people you want coming into your practice? What are the kinds of issues, conditions that you want to work with? And
Mm.
start looking at it from you. What's important to you? And then from there, you can start figuring out what your target markets are, or how to get them, because you'll have figured out who your ideal client is. And you start with that. Who's my
Yeah.
ideal client? And you're probably going to have like several different ideal clients.
Mm.
And but let's start with that. Realize that there are things that you'll have to do. You'll have to find out what your local regulations are, and in terms of if you have to have any kind of legal entities set up, or if you can just start your practice. Are there any special, in addition to your practice license, are there any other kind of business licenses you need? So you have to find out that information. But hopefully, your business teacher has given you that information already, yeah, or
Yeah.
at least, told you where to go locally to find that information.
Mm.
And even not just locally, but where to go in your state or in your country, in general, to find that kind of legislative things. It's
Yep.
really very simple to start a practice. The other thing is open up a separate business checking account.
Hmm.
Keep
Yeah.
things separate. And that's really important, to keep things separate. Keep your money separate. Keep track of it. Uh, Keep a little envelope where you put cash receipts and write on it, because otherwise you're going to forget. That's the other thing, is that people really lose out on a lot of legitimate business expenses because they
Hmm.
don't write them down.
Yeah. Yeah. That's absolutely, absolutely. And that's value. Have a card for your, like you said, business and one personal. And when you go to do your shopping, if you're buying oil
Hmm.
or like wipes or whatever, just you still got to put them in two separate purchases, because that
Right.
way you've got one receipt and you're not digging around on a Sunday night at 7:30 trying to go, was that oil, was that cooking oil, or yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yes, super important to do that. And it's funny that those kind of things people don't just naturally consider, but it's something that should be a business principle.
Oh yeah, and it just makes everything so easier. I mean, because you want to be able to separate you as a human being from you as a business person.
Mm, mm. Yeah, that's
You
so true.
know,
And I love the avatar, like the actual starting with you in mind. That's
yes,
really clever, because we don't normally, we try to spread out. How can I help everybody else versus
right,
what do I want, and
right,
then build it, and they will come.
right. Well, usually I see this with this kind of a reaction. I just want to work on anybody. Hands go up, heads go back, and it's just like opening up their throat for the kill. It's like, no.
Yeah, no,
It's
that's
like, I didn't turn people away, but I want to spend my time and my money focused on who I want to bring in.
mm,
And particularly if you're a sole practitioner, who do you want to spend your day with?
yeah, yeah, yeah. If you don't want negative Nellies, and
Right,
like if you don't want men,
right.
or if you don't want kids,
Yeah,
yeah, that you don't want people who are non-athletic. Like you've got to be really clear, and then that's your marketing, isn't
right.
it? Really, how you market yourself, and then you become specialized in that area.
Well, I had a client who was a massage therapist who was a smoker, and he talked about how ostracized he always was and all of that. And I said, well, why don't you become the therapist that smokers go to?
Yeah,
I said,
yeah,
now, you'll never get me in your practice or people like me in your practice because the smoke would bother us. But could you imagine? And his business thrived because he just put things, smokers are welcome.
yeah. Wow. Do you know that is? I know therapists down in northern New South Wales, an hour and a half from here, who only treat people who've not been vaccinated,
Wow.
because they're anti-vaxxers and they don't want the vaccination polymers, whatever's going out there, to invade their space. And
Wow.
they're really busy too, because
Yeah.
that's a huge area of anti-vax down there. So
Hmm.
it's very, very smart. Their own social dilemma, and
Right.
they've covered that off. So you don't have anyone coming into your clinic going, have you been vaccinated, and nagging at you if they don't want it.
Right. And so you can take a spin on negative things and use them to your advantage.
Yeah, yeah. Um, what else do we do? Do yes or no letter drops? Do you know what I
Uh,
mean by letter? the letter drops, where you put the letters, I'm a massage therapist, I'm in your area, in everybody's letter boxes. 300
Oh,
flyers in some.
flyers, distribute. Yeah, that can work. But again, that's going out just to the general public.
Mm, mm,
So if you can do something like that very inexpensively, why not? I refer to that as planting wildflower seeds.
yeah,
Yeah, spread out
yeah,
some seeds, and you never know what's going to pop up. But if you want a vegetable garden, plant
yeah,
the correct seeds in the right place and
yeah,
water them.
yeah. I'm a no to letterbox drops. I find that they are a huge waste of time and they're
Yeah,
costly. And you also got paper that we're now considering we're throwing. I never read any of that junk that's in my letterbox.
yeah,
We've got all the things that say no junk mail. There's a reason for that,
right,
because people don't really take that. And if you spend $300 on 100 flyers,
right,
then you've wasted a huge volume of A, time, B, energy, and C, finances.
right. And again, that goes against the whole principle of attracting your ideal client.
Yeah. So what do you think? How's a great way to get
Well,
these young
in
therapists?
general, it really, I hate to sound this way, but it really all depends on your target market.
Yeah. All
Um,
right. So if
but
I'm
but
a
there's some things you can do in general that
mhm,
goes across all markets. Public speaking. And I know that freaks people out, but I think because people have been doing, Zoom and doing things, I think they're a little bit more comfortable now. So you could even do a talk like this to a special group. Let's say you wanted to bring in accountants. Well, maybe the accountants are, they're having their meeting, their, monthly meeting, and you could even, if you can't go there live, you could have someone Zoom you in and you could give them a talk on some self-care techniques.
yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
yeah. So there are things that you can always do. I find that when people can get a direct experience of you, that's the best.
yeah, yeah, that's good. And I actually hadn't even thought about those kind of like professional avatars. So
Mhm.
maybe go for the doctors, or because then you're going to get more referrals. Actually, you know what? I think I would target um, receptionists in healthcare centers.
Well, I was going to say, if you're going for the physicians, you got to go through the back door.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So
exactly.
you've got to target. Yes, you've got to target the receptionist, the front staff, all of that first, because you're not
Yeah,
going to get even through to anybody else unless you do that.
exactly. We used to
Oh,
have these things that we'd say, okay, write letters that you want to see the doctor and come in and have an extended, pay for the extended time and tell them how good you are, blah, blah, blah. I thought, no,
yeah,
no. Go and have a chat to the receptionist and say, listen, I'm going to get 30-minute free massages for you girls because you all work so hard. Here's my card. Here's some times. Call me. Let's book it in.
right,
And you get through that door, and people come out of the doctor's surgery and they say, the doctor said I'm really stiff and stressed. And they say, I know a great massage therapist you should go to see. Her name's
right,
Paula, blah, 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 blah.
right. And also, they might be telling the doctors that too.
Yeah,
So they can. That's a way. But sometimes you can find, really interesting side doors. There was a group in town that used to meet. It was a group of physicians and other healthcare practitioners who met once a quarter, and that could be anybody who was a wellness practitioner. And they talked about what was important in the community and what was going on. So that was a way that you could actually get to meet physicians if
yeah,
that's who you wanted to meet. So there's always ways. And I've always thought that the fun thing to do is, let's say there's somebody who is really important in your target market. As one of your target market is uh, golfers.
yeah.
And then there's, like, maybe there's a famous golfer that lives in your town or something. And you just start telling people that you know and care about that you want to meet that person, and someone's going to know them
Yeah,
because they think of them, oh, that's just my next door neighbor, or that's blah blah blah. They don't think of them, oh, this is the head golfer. So there's just fun ways. And I love marketing.
Yeah.
because I do it on a personal level. I hate doing, like you said, like the flyers and all that kind of. I mean, of course I had brochures when I was in practice, and I had things like that. But the more natural it is,
Yeah.
the closer it is to relating. So
Yeah.
one of the other things, let's say you've got a target market and they have a support group for that market.
Mm.
Well, maybe they have a newsletter that you could do a little tip for, or that would actually possibly be a good place to invest a little money in advertising.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Agree. And I
So
love that, because if you give, like, it's organic. And I love what you're saying about that. People just naturally are drawn to someone who is just genuine and comfortable. Like, neither you nor I at the start said we take script off notes, because that's not the way we work.
right.
And I think that becomes more personable, and people kind of go, oh, this doesn't feel stilted and uncomfortable. But also giving as much as you possibly can. So giving a free tip versus saying, oh, I'll do this, but it's going to cost you, for me to give you a tip on neck care or lower back care, or, that specialize in plumbers, because they're all in terrible positions all day.
Right.
Let me give you some amazing skills that you can do after you've climbed out of a grease trap,
Right.
stretching.
What's a stretch that you can do?
Yeah.
And those are the kinds of things, and you keep that stuff on your website, so and your social media site, so that people can get to it. It's that's why I say that part can be really fun, and it's not costing you anything. A lot of people say, give away free massages. I say if you're giving it away, you want to give it away where there's a purpose.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, and because I have no problem with giving of my time, but I want to make sure that there's a real purpose for it. It's not just, unless you're planting wildflower seeds.
Yeah, exactly. Let's talk more about that, but I want to take a brief break so we can talk about our wonderful sponsors, the Q
Yeah.
Academy.
My name is Jade Afu. I studied Cert 4 massage in 2014 and then went on to remedial in 2015. I was working in ASICS. I was retail, Lorna Jane. The real reason why I went and studied was my daughter was, she's been quite sick for about 7 years on and off. She's had a couple of chronic conditions. So I found it hard working in a job and having to leave because my children are sick, or I've got to go to hospital, or there's just so many things going on. For me, I needed another option. I've been set up for about 8 years now, working from home. Having a home business has been like such a blessing to my life. I don't think I could have done what I've done somewhere else just with my own circumstances. My life's very busy. I've got 3 kids. And this year has been a little bit different again because now I've got 3 kids playing sports every afternoon. So I do try, if I can, work in between school hours. I feel like you can make it work to your advantage. So you can either work as hard as you want and be stressed and all the things, or you can make it flexible.
They are amazing. They really, really have been a great group, and they've got a new course that's coming out on more of a higher academic level that I'm part of the governance of. So that's pretty exciting for Q Academy and the practitioners coming out of there. Well, it's interesting listening to that, to Jade, because that is such a familiar story, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. I work from home. I've worked from home. I've, trying to think. I don't think I've ever had an outside office.
Yeah. I worked for a few different places for a while, and that, again, that's kind of just getting your feet in the door. I was doing massage at a couple of different, like portable massage, taking the table out to some nursing homes.
Yeah.
And like that was, I don't know even know how I managed to get into that gig, but it was one of those things that I think I just went to different nursing homes and said, hello, my name's Paula Nutting. I've just completed my remedial massage. And I don't know if you've got any old people here who might have families that want them to have massages. And if you're available in that space. And also my background's in I'm ICU trained, so registered nurse. So I had a background of a little bit of, something I think that they kind of went, oh, okay, she's a registered nurse, versus, just straight out of school. But that was, be brave is, I guess what I'm saying is work out your avatar, like Cherie's saying, work out who that market is, and then actively look for ways to get yourself out there.
And ask people, find people who are in that target market and ask them questions. Ask them what's of interest to them. Where would they look to find a massage therapist? Where do they shop? All those kinds of things, so that what groups do they belong to? And then you can go from there and go, okay, so they shop at A, B, and C. Well, what can I do with this section here? What do they offer? Do they offer any way where I can do a demonstration? Do they have something where I can do some kind of a tip in a newsletter? What is it that they have? And then you come back and then you make your marketing plan. It's like, you don't say, my marketing plan is I'm going to do 3 presentations and blah, 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 blah. It's just like, yes, that works. And it usually works when you've done your target market analysis first, and then you come back, because then it's natural, it makes sense, and you'll get so much better results that way.
Yeah. People don't like spending that background research, do they?
No, they don't. But that's critical. But when you think about it, oh my gosh, it's only going to take you maybe 5 hours of research.
Yeah. I know that just even going into the, like you're talking about social media marketing, go into the Facebook groups of your communities.
Right.
Like your postcode sections and see comments. People quite often are saying, we've moved to the area, we're looking for a good massage therapist, or I've got a lower back pain, da, 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 da. And don't just, the thing that gets me is a lot of people go, oh, go and see Paula, or go and see Janet, or go and see, if you've got back pain, try this. I normally will come in and go, hey, I'm a remedial therapist, but can you tell me a little bit more about what's going on? Like, don't just go, I'm the one, I'm right. God. Ask questions, find out more. Please feel free to private message me, and let's see if I can't help, then maybe I can pass you to someone who I think that you'd be better referred to.
Right.
And actually speak like you were talking to somebody in real life. Like, I don't think many people should think, oh, I'm God, I can fix you in one session. So why would you think you should do that on social media?
And the more you can relate, the better. And again, you're going back and you're saying, how can I help you? What are your pain points?
Yep.
Whether it's literal pain or not, but what is your, what's hurting with you, or what are some of your physical goals that you would like to improve? And oh, well, here's a resource, or here's this center. And I'm also available. So it's not just, you want this? Come to me.
Yeah. It's kind of not the ethically. I don't sit well in that space, so I suppose I get a little bit on my bandwagon. What other business skills? Because I know there'll be people out there who are new and are like trying to sitting down writing averagely. Okay, that's a great idea. I'll get my dream day, and how do I market? And what other basic business common sense so that I don't go broke in the first 12 months?
Well, one of the most important things, and it doesn't quite relate directly, but it does, is to improve your grammar.
Okay.
Because nothing turns somebody else off as fast as somebody who I think everybody's a little more kind about typos because that happens easily. But when you're using the wrong word, when you're saying there, when you want it possessive and you spelled it THERE instead, it's like your credibility goes down. It plummets. I remember one time when I was looking for another staff employee, and the cover letter said that they were detail oriented, and there were 5 spelling errors in their cover letter.
Oh.
Did I read their resume?
Hashtag fail.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's one of the biggest things, and particularly younger people that are coming in have a little disadvantage because they're not quite taught the same way. So it's an important business skill. Communication skills are vital.
Yeah.
So there's that aspect of things. I'm going to use a technical term here, and I hope that, don't freeze when I say it, but do your cash flow forecasting.
Yeah.
And what that means is you figure out ahead of time, in general, what are your annual expenses? What are your quarterly expenses? What are your monthly expenses? And you break that down, and then you keep track of, well, how much money have I made? So this way, what happens so often, not just in this profession, but with so many people, it's like, I've got 500 extra bucks. Okay, I'm going to go buy blah, blah, blah. And then it's like, oh, but 2 months down the road, you're going to have a $600 fee coming up. That's not a monthly fee, so you don't think about it. And that is the biggest thing. So whether you do it on a spreadsheet or you just keep notes, make sure that you know exactly how much you need to spend for a year. And then this way you can break down your income projections and, okay, so I need to be making this much a month. And factor in things. Sometimes there's some places that just have seasonal ups and downs. And if you're living in a location like that where there's seasonal ups and downs, then plan that into it. Plan into your projections. Okay, well, this 3 months I'm going to be probably working around the clock if I can, and then for this month I'll be lucky if I can find a person who's staying in town. So,
what would you give them during that month? I mean, like for me, I'm thinking, like, can they be marketing like that? I do get that.
Couple things. One is that's when you plan your time for your vacation or your self-care things. And you're always marketing. That's the other thing. You don't just market every once in a while. Marketing is a weekly activity.
Yeah. So I knew a person who said she gives 5 of these out a day.
Right.
That was a while ago, but she would always be handing out her card. And funnily enough, I was listening to a business guru speaking, and he said, I never put my mobile number. I never put a number on. And he said, but when I'm talking to people, I go, oh, here's my card, but hang on. I'm going to give you my private number.
Yeah.
So you can contact me, because it put them up to that next step going, oh, wow, I'm important, which is a bit of a sneaky marketing, but, good on them.
Yeah, that's a really good technique. The problem with that, though, is that who's getting those business cards?
Yeah.
Again, that's important because you have to plant wildflower seeds. But that's wildflower seed planting. Unless you're making sure you're giving the majority of those business cards to people who are in your ideal target markets. Or know people who are in your target markets.
Yeah. So maybe be standing outside your school if you're targeting school teachers,
right?
Or mums, and be like, gosh, it's really busy. Get there a little bit early if you're a therapist who wants to look after mums and bubs type thing. Then that's where you want to be standing in that space and talking to people as you're waiting for your child, or just trying not to look crazy and stalking around a primary school.
Well, or you join the PTA, or you do things where you're actually going to get to
Yeah.
know people.
Yeah.
Because when they have an experience of you and they've spent more than 3 seconds, they're going to have a connection with you. And when they have a connection with you, then when it's appropriate for them to receive massage, you'll be the first one they call.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Especially, and is it only 3 seconds? That's quite interesting.
Yeah. Well, they say it takes, 6 to 20 seconds to make a first impression.
So don't be that person who can't not speak right. If you're speaking to older generation, you can get away with finishing every sentence with "but" if you are 25 and younger. But again, work on your market. So please, I agree. Grammar
and use language that's appropriate. If you're talking to a group of physicians, you better be using multisyllabic words.
Yes, exactly.
But if you're dealing with teenage athletes, maybe not.
Yeah, so true. Hey, listen, Cherie, I know that we've been talking about business skills, but I noticed that you've also got another book out there called Ethics of Touch.
Yes.
Can you? When did you put that together?
Well, Ben Benjamin and I we first came out with that book in 2003, and last year was the 3rd edition.
Oh wow! Okay.
Yeah, and
wow,
it's pretty exciting because both of us have real similar feelings about ethics, and so many times we would hear things like people would say, well, you're either ethical or you're not. And that's not true. We've been finding, at least when we would be looking at some of the claims against therapists, the majority of the claims against therapists had to do with misconduct. And it wasn't blatant rape or anything like that, but it was just things that, it was the kind of the gray things that had the therapist had some training and understanding about boundaries and what happens if you inadvertently cross a boundary. What are some of the things that you can do so it does not escalate, so that your client feels safe and that you feel safe?
Because we quite often learn about what's a boundary and what's not, but I don't think I've ever seen anywhere where you go, uh-oh, there's a warning sign, I've crossed that boundary, how do I de-escalate this? So that's fantastic. That if nothing else, I would be buying that book just to understand how to stop that bushfire.
Yes.
So
and the book, covers all sorts of things. There's, business ethics in there too. Some things you have to worry about in terms of business ethics. And a lot of that revolves around impropriety, the sexual misconduct, but social media, and some silly things that people do. And this is a business thing and also an ethics thing. With social media, be careful. When you have a social media site and you're a business person, create a separate business page. Just do that. And then also make sure that your personal page has security functions in it and privacy functions, so that not everybody can just see everything. You don't want potential clients to see a picture of you out partying.
Yeah.
Unless your target market is partiers. But, I've seen some pretty dicey things that people have put up or other people have put up on their site. So, someone's posted a picture that you didn't know that they took of, and, it's just, you might not be in the most flattering light.
Yeah. Like, you don't want to have someone taking a photo of you with someone holding your hair out of the toilet while you're throwing up. And that's probably more applicable for the people who are slightly younger than you and I.
Yes.
More so than us, but it's still not out of the question. Well, and that's interesting about the social media, because we don't tend to think of it so much like that, do we? We kind of just throw ourselves out there for the
Exactly.
universe to see.
Yeah.
Communication. I think that I'm with the Massage and Myotherapy Australia. It's the largest single-focused massage association in Australia. Was on the board there for a long time and still on education, but I was on ethics. And the thing with the ethics committee, the majority of ethics cases tend to stem around poor communication.
Yep.
So, get on the table. I'm just going to pull the towel down, not consider telling you anything, what we're doing, what the treatment plan is. I was just reading on one of the group's pages about someone who said I got on the table, but they got me to lie on my back, and I was saying that my back was sore, and they were coming in and they were pushing in my stomach, and I kind of felt really weird, and
Right.
so it's a negative experience.
Right. And that whole communication, that was, like I said, that was one of the biggest things that you have to get. And particularly when you have, the more life experience you have, the more cognizant you can be of these things. But we do, particularly our newer therapists, real disservice when we don't cover these kinds of things in school, and work on improving their communication skills and saying, okay, here's what you need to say. When a client comes in, here's the kind of give them their little script of how things that should always be covered in an initial interview. You talk about informed consent. You talk about the treatment plan. You work with that so that a client isn't surprised. And when you make a mistake, again, you can always, if you can come back from it and just say, oh, I realized I might have said this. If I did, that's not what I just want to make sure you know what I meant, so that things are just a whole lot more clear. And then people can be so much more comfortable. Yeah, and there's things that happen. You might accidentally brush up against a part of their body you shouldn't be brushing up against. Yeah, you don't want to pretend that didn't happen.
No, that's exactly right. Because sometimes you kind of go, "Oh, oops, we won't say anything," and they may not have noticed. But in actual fact, when you're lying on the table, your sensory organs, touch, are heightened. So you pick up everything. You pick up sounds. You pick up touch until you're falling asleep, and then you're dribbling in the head hole. But prior to that, so fess up straight away. And oh my gosh, I can't believe that happened. I'm so sorry. Just make light of it, because we don't want to be increasing that. Oh my God, I can't believe I just did it, because we're priming them for a negative experience. We don't want to prime for negative.
Yeah. But we want to acknowledge an elephant in the room when an elephant's in the room. So it's like, I realize that the drape slipped there. I really apologize for that. I'm going to tuck this in here so that doesn't happen again, so you can be comfortable. So you're acknowledging it. You're not like going, oh, forgive me, but you're just acknowledging, that shouldn't have happened. Let's make this better for you.
Yeah. I wonder if it's as simple as putting yourself in their footsteps, like going, okay, if that happened to me, what would I hope was the best outcome? Yeah. Well, I'd hope they'd say something.
Right. Yeah. Well, and that's why those are the kinds of things that I think should happen in schools. They should be role-playing this stuff, because it's going to happen. Yeah. We're humans. We're going to do stupid things. And it's not that we want to make sure that therapists never do stupid things. We want to make sure that when they do something stupid, that they know how to gracefully deal with it with their client, so their client is comfortable and safe.
Yeah. That's so amazing. That's 100% exactly what we need to be doing for our therapists. And I get that role playing is amazing, because role playing, you actually you're living through the experience, and you're living through the emotions of the experience, aren't you?
Yeah.
That'd be fun. Any other tips that we can give new therapists?
Well, set a schedule and keep it. So
Okay.
if you want to be working X amount of hours a day and what days a week you want to do, schedule that in. And if you don't have clients, you do marketing or you study, but you do something that's business related so that you
Mm,
are setting up a mindset of I'm in, I'm in business Monday, Wednesday, Friday,
mm,
9 to 3.
yeah.
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 And I can say that from someone who learned the hard way to do that, because when I was starting my practice, I lived near the beach. So yeah, when I didn't have clients, I was often at the beach. And then one day, I do always I do really test myself. And that's like, I was going, wait a second. If I want to build my practice, I need to be in keeping hours. And that made a
Mm,
world of difference. My number of clients increased dramatically just by doing that.
yeah. So one, I mean, and it's that attention, energy goes where attention flows.
Yeah.
So it is about, build, and the other comments, build it and they'll come, all of that. But it actually means the same thing. If you're not putting in 100% of your effort in the schedule that you're saying, and the other, you've got to be careful, because the other thing is people go, oh yeah, sure, come in at, I know at 8 o'clock is late, but if that's the only time you can come in, then I'm happy to treat you. And then they're working 7 days a week in
Right.
stupid times.
Yeah. And again, you've got to do that according to what feels right to you. I mean, if it's a good client who, injures themselves and they need to come in, you might make an exception. Uh, there's some people that really like are night owls and they would prefer to work at night. So
Mm,
again, yeah, honor yourself. You can change your schedule a little bit every once in a while, but really in general, keep to a schedule that you want.
mm,
But I got to tell you, in all my years of doing massage as well as consulting work and all of that, I have never had a client who, I don't want to say never because it might not be true, but rarely have I had a client who canceled at the last minute or something like that when it really wasn't what I wanted. Because it was, oh, there was something else I really wanted to do at that time, but I had a client, so I was going to be showing up for that. And
yeah.
then they cancel at the last minute. So whenever that would happen, it would be like, I couldn't charge them a late fee because it was really what I wanted.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah. And on that whole deal, we thank God now that we have, like I use Notero, but we've all got Clinico or whatever. But the
mhm,
capacity to have the reminders that go out,
right.
an email 24 hours beforehand, and a reminder text
Hmm.
12 hours,
Right.
how that has reduced the no-shows.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that's money well spent, newbies and
Yes.
anyone who's got a clinical practice out there. It almost obliterated my no-show people.
Yeah. Because people do forget.
Yeah,
I can't imagine forgetting my massage appointment, but other people is not that high on their list.
yeah, which is kind of bizarre, because I'd be going, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow. Well, is there any last passing tip you could give them a bit of a life will be fine at the end of it all?
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure if it's a tip, but hopefully it's an inspiration to keep you going when times get tough. Because there will be ups and downs in your practice. There's a couple things. Don't do this alone. There's so many times, I mean, massage is a very solitary practice. Yes, you have clients who come in, but that's their hour. That's not you chit chatting and talking. So there's a
Mm,
lot of aloneness in this practice. So I really encourage you to get involved with other practitioners and have a peer support group or do something like that. So you have that support and that camaraderie. Uh, so that when something happens and, something happens to you and it's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this happened. And then everybody else in the group goes, oh yeah, that's happened like 20 times to me. And it's like, oh, okay. So it wasn't so bad that my client came in with stinky feet, So those are kind of the things that I think is really important, because we tend to be too much solitary in this profession. And I think that burns you out in a really different way. But the other thing is just to remember why you got into this field to begin with. Every day, remind yourself. And the longer you've been in practice, the more you're going to build up a list of miracles that have happened in the work.
Yeah,
And
that's
just remind yourself on a regular basis of some of these miracles and the majesty of the power of touch. And the reason that I stopped being a massage practitioner and focused on writing and coaching was because I realized I could reach millions of people by keeping practitioners in business that I could never reach with these two little hands.
Yeah, what beautiful. Yeah, absolutely amazing. And hopefully people will be able to, in Australia, I wasn't aware of you, but everyone in America, your common name over there for massage therapists. So hopefully you'll be able to get your name spread out around here in Australia and some of the other areas around the world, because we have practitioners from everywhere that actually take advantage of these vodcasts, which is cool.
Yeah.
But Cherie, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been enlightening and educational, and hopefully this has helped. We quite often use a lot of highbrow stuff coming into these spaces, so it's nice to be able to get in for the newer therapists as well as the ones who want to know about tendinopathies, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
So thank you so much for coming, and hopefully we'll get a chance to see you again. And I'd also like to do another quick shout out for Q Academy, because they rock. And if you are interested in doing further education in remedial massage space, or you've got some, your kids finishing grade 12 and looking at trying to find something that is worthy, massage is absolutely worthy. It's a great profession. I love it, love it, love it. And Q Academy is a great place to get all of your educational knowledge from. Yeah.
And one last thing, I know we're a little over the hour, but when you said what's one last thing, is that by doing massage, I think it's the greatest gift we can give to world peace, because it's really hard for someone to be angry and mean when they're feeling good in their body.
Yeah.
So keep contributing to world peace.
Yeah. Well said. World peace, everybody. World peace. Thanks, Cherie.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. And we'll see you next month. I think I've got Anne Williams, who'll be talking about ethics and aromatherapy.
All right.
Yeah. Thanks, Cherie.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
See ya.